is you can't spot that sort of toxicity at a glance. It's over time, and I think, to be honest, I think everybody has an element of toxicity in them that they're looking to exercise out of their system. I mean, we every leader, including myself, will on occasions behave in ways that you regret. I think we all have regrets as leaders, as people, as humans, as employees, as employers, that we make a statement and we do an action that isn't appropriate at any given time. And it was all about being humble. Leadership in any area inside the sport, inside the game or the team itself, was always being about humble, being prepared to do what you would ask others to do, and always being prepared to do the hard yards and the menial tasks. And I think that in leadership and business, some of the most successful leaders that I think any of us see are the most humble people. They may be extremely aspirational, they may have made amazing profiles and all of this, but I think the common threads are people who are common to the group, who do not consider themselves above anybody else, especially in companies with flat structures, and making sure that the leaders recognize people in the smallest opportunity that people may not even notice, somebody doing things that are important to the organization, and recognizing those things.
My name is Ahmed Khalid, and I am the host of this Unleash podcast. We speak mainly around personal development and entrepreneurship. Our mission is unleashing the human greatness to its utmost potential. And this is by interviewing CEOs, entrepreneurs, and coaches physically in Dubai to extract their wisdom and change your life. Now, you can enjoy the episode. So Kim, what are those success formulas that anybody or just from executive position, they should seek it?
So, Ahmed, how long is a piece of string? So you're asking me what are the success formulas for people going into an executive role?
Exactly. In business and in life.
Yeah, look, that everyone is different, and everybody has their own biases, their own backgrounds, their own aspirations, of course, and everybody's different. But what I've learned and what my team has learned when we're in the executive search sector is looking at some of the most successful people that we've placed over the last 24 years, seems like 24 days sometimes, has been, some of the most successful, both candidates and customers that we deal with, the community that we're part of, the relationships that we have been people who have, men and women who are, have great diversity and have a great deal of variety in their lives. So we're dealing with a lot of tier one companies globally in the supply chain and logistics space. A lot of those people that we see as great leaders have this diversity in as much they're not just focused on commercial outcomes. So in the business environment, they're really holistic in the way that they practice their leadership. They're always learning, they're always taking on new information, they're sharing information, they're putting out information to those who they lead, and also right outside of the commercial sphere. So some of the what I would call the best people that we have the honor and the pleasure of dealing with do some incredible things outside of business. That keep them humble, that keep them learning about new things all the time. And in our case, you're aware that we got involved in a very big operation in 2004. We were asked by DHL and the UN from Davos to deploy into Sri Lanka during the tsunami, the Asian tsunami. Wow. 240,000 people were killed in a matter of a day or so. Aceh and all of that. So they saw us online and they said, we want you to deploy some logisticians. So we went up and were in Sri Lanka. We worked there on the airport, helping the operations there, the world's biggest peacetime airlift operation. And then DHL took us around the world to different places with them, a guy called Chris Weeks, who ran all their DHL humanitarians. Hey, Chris. And we helped set up operations around the world with them. Ended up in Kenya, came across Kibera slum, one of the largest slums in the world, 1 million people in 4 square miles. And a week after getting there, all of a sudden we were forming a school there because there was a bunch of kids who really needed some education. 16 years later, we've educated 8,000 children in Kenya up to university level, some of them. Just as a matter of how it happened to happen, so we weren't going in there looking for this sort of thing, but those sorts of things. And it's been a big part of our brand. A lot of people know us, especially in APAC and Australia. We have fundraisers every year. It takes a lot of money to raise 8,000 kids, most of them orphans. So that became part of our holistic approach to business.
Why you're doing this? What is the purpose behind this?
Just because we were there and we could. So it was, it was a little bit like, how we're going to get up in the morning and have a shave and look yourself in the mirror and say, there was 50 kids there that had no parents, had no school, nothing. And they reached out to us through a church group and said, can you help us? We just happened to be there. So it's been part of our brand, part of our life and what we do. We've got some great supporters up here in the Gulf. Maersk have been down into Kenya with us recently, donating laptops, going back down again this year. Astral Aviation from Kenya, Sanjay Gadia, the biggest cargo airline in Africa, assist us down there. So we've got a number of sponsors. There have been thousands of people around the world that have been part of Oasis Africa, oasisafrica.org.au.
What a very purposeful work. I appreciate what you're doing because this is how we leave our planet in a better shape and a better place.
Yeah.
And I'm so curious about, you spoke about somehow on leadership, right? What are those quality of leadership that you're looking at specifically? If we can put it in that frame, what are those kind of quality of leadership that you're looking after in any executive?
I think some of the stuff that I was brought up with when I was young, and I was fortunate I had a couple of good mentors when I was young in pretty rough conditions, but in diverse situations. And reflecting back to life in New Zealand. New Zealand boxes well above its weight in the art of rugby, in the sport of rugby. And New Zealand has been a leader in that sport for many, many years. And one of the things that the All Blacks, a good friend of mine wrote a book about the All Blacks, and it was all about being humble leadership in any area inside the sport, inside the game or the team itself, was always being about humble, being prepared to do what you would ask others to do, and always being prepared to do the hard yards and the menial tasks. And I think that in leadership and business, some of the most successful leaders that I think any of us see are the most humble people. They may be extremely aspirational, or they may have made amazing profiles and all of this, but I think the common threads are people who are common to the group, who do not consider themselves above anybody else, especially in companies with flat structures, and making sure that the leaders recognize people in the smallest opportunity that people may not even notice, or somebody doing things that are important in the organization, and recognizing those things, but being humble, understanding the need for diversity right across the board, been a major trend the last 10 years. As the logistics and supply chain industry have been dominated in the past way too much by men. Of course, we're seeing much more equality now and diversity in organizations. It's much greater awareness. So leadership. I mean, there's so many great examples, so many great books, there's so many people in the logistics and supply chain world that stand out.
Yeah, we spoke about leadership, but I'm so curious, how do you spot a toxic leaders? I wouldn't say even leaders, toxic bosses from the beginning, even at the beginning of recruitment. Because sometimes the recruitment, it happens like 30 minutes you stay in front, but you don't know what's inside me, right? Or you don't know what I'm carrying, but I can pretend I can have this great face and a great mask. How do you, from your experience, how do you spot those toxic bosses?
Well, the reality is you can't spot that sort of toxicity at a glance. It's over time, and I think, to be honest, I think everybody has an element of toxicity in them that they're looking to exercise out of their system. I mean, we every leader, including myself, will on occasions behave in ways that you regret. I think we all have regrets as leaders, as people, as humans, as employees, as employers, that we make a statement and we do an action that isn't appropriate at any given time, and that's just about self-improvement, and is about being humble about life in general, being prepared to learn, being prepared to overcome adversity, overcome the demons that pressure and emotion and stress can bring into any business environment. I speak for myself, certainly not perfect, and I don't think I've ever met the perfect leader. But there are a lot of people out there that have very great expectations of themselves, and of course everybody around you has enormous expectations of you. So the more senior the role, the more senior their expectation, and this is something that all leaders must take account of.
Unleash is the bridge between my purpose and my mission. And my mission is unleashing the human greatness to its utmost potential.